You're listening to Raising Anchor, the Rhode Island FC podcast, now part of the Blazing Musket family. We're glad you're here. Hello and welcome to Raising Anchor, your podcast and source for all things Rhode Island FC. I'm your host, Matt Entrikin, and joining me today is very special guest, Rhode Island FC President David Peart. He's joining us today to talk all things about his new position, his role with the organization, and what that means for the future of soccer here in Rhode Island. David, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be with you.
How's everything been going for you in these last few weeks? It's been a quick turnaround since your announcement, a quick transition. How has Rhode Island been treating you so far?
Wonderful. I'm thrilled to be here. The alternative would be to be in Houston, and it's probably about 110 degrees right now. So I'm loving Rhode Island weather for sure. From a business perspective, the last 3 weeks have been an absolute whirlwind in the most positive way. So from that standpoint, I love what I do. I feel like as a group, as an organization, we have come together pretty quickly, and I'm thrilled to be here and be a part of this exciting team.
So we'll get into your exhaustive background in sport in a minute, but I think it would be great if you could maybe give listeners a quick introduction about who you are as a person, your background that we couldn't quite find in our study of your LinkedIn profile, and expand on who you are as a human being.
I am originally from Pittsburgh, grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I have worked in sports from the time I was a sophomore in college. I'm married. I have two kids that are in their early 30s. And we have, as a family, moved all across the country for my jobs almost every 5 years of my career, from the time I was in college until recently. So from that perspective, I'm a bit of a traveler. I've lived literally all over the country, including Northern California, Texas more than a couple of times, Pittsburgh several times as well. I have worked for professional teams in every one of the major sports leagues in North America. Soccer now sort of rounds it out for me, the full cycle, now working in soccer. So I've got a pretty diverse business background, having been a bunch of different places, market sizes similar to Rhode Island and this area, and significantly larger as well, right? San Francisco's top 5 market, Houston, the 4th largest city in the United States. So I've pretty much run the gamut. From a sports business perspective, there isn't very much that I haven't been involved with. And what I like to say to the folks that I work with here, there's not a single job in the business operations side of a pro team that I haven't done. Not just managed, not been in the same room with, but literally done, from selling tickets, group tickets, premium sponsorship. If it's a part of our charge, our directive, I have done it at some point in my career.
With such a robust background and perspective on this country, and you're traveling, and of course the right answer here is Rhode Island as I ask this question, but what would be your second most favorite place that you've traveled to?
My second favorite place to live is probably wherever I'm working. And the same goes with the teams that I follow, right? A lot of times when I meet people for the first time, they ask me about my first favorite place to live, favorite team, favorite sport to work in. And it truly, I mean it genuinely, for me, one of the enjoyable parts of my career, my professional journey, is that I do have an opportunity to sort of learn and grow, become familiar with a particular community. It's one of the things that I'm most excited about Rhode Island is this is such a vibrant and unique part of the country. And so for me, having never lived in New England before, to be able to sort of be out in the community with our organization, with our team, with our mascot, and our grassroots group, to be able to be out there and experience it is really a fantastic thing, right, from my perspective. To learn and understand what's important in a community like this. And I pride myself, having done it so many different times, I pride myself um, with being a really quick learner regarding that, right? Being able to sort of identify in a community what are the things that matter most, because that's important in our job, right? We represent Rhode Island. And so from our perspective, we want to make sure we do it the right way. That's a long way of answering your question. But Rhode Island is without a doubt my favorite place right now.
That's the right answer. So let's touch into your sporting experience, your professional experience, that is. You're no stranger, like you said at the beginning here, when we talk about the Pittsburgh Penguins, the Dallas Stars, Texan Rangers, the Houston Texans, the San Francisco 49ers. I could go on and on. You have been simply immersed in all avenues of sport. And I think I have to ask you this question because a lot of fans and listeners have this on the top of their mind. What was the reason behind your interest in going for a role both in soccer and with Rhode Island FC?
For me, very rarely do you have an ownership group like the one that we have here, right? The commitment that they are making to bringing professional sports to Rhode Island is very special, very unique. The ownership group is super resilient, very committed. There is a vision that Brett Johnson has related to the team, the stadium, and the development in Pawtucket. It's incredibly refreshing and very unique. So that was one really important aspect. And in professional sports, regardless of what league and what level, ownership is critical to a successful business. Full stop. The other aspect of this particular job is the fact that we will be creating traditions, creating experiences, how folks connect with this franchise for the first time, right? And anytime you have the convergence of a new team and a new building, that's sort of like a once in a career opportunity. I've been fortunate to be able to do it a number of times in a number of different places. And I know the thrill and the excitement associated with those two pieces coming together. And so from that perspective, for me, this was such a unique opportunity in a part of the country that I had not experienced before, with ownership that I know are completely committed to doing this the right way. The combination of those elements has been the real draw. What's been icing on the cake is coming here and working with the folks in this organization that have been here, that have been working so incredibly hard at Bryant University, right, to build that game day out, and then after the game is done, until all hours of the night, tearing it back down and getting it back to the way it was for the university. That's a special attitude and approach to doing your job. And that's been a really impressive thing from my perspective. And all the hard work that's gone into starting this team right now in a temporary home. I don't take that lightly because, again, I've done those sort of things before. So to arrive here and have a team already in place that's running at full speed has been a really exciting part of the situation for me. And then on the stadium and the venue side, we have such an accomplished general manager in Paul Byrne, who is sort of shepherding the construction of that building from a programming standpoint and the layout and the design perspective, along with Dan Krober. His experience in pro sports coming here to this marketplace is also one of those really, really exciting parts of this job. In fact, when I first came up and started talking about the position, meeting with Paul was a fantastic experience for me, and one of the real key reasons why I wanted to be here is to be partner in this project, right, from the team side, be involved in that, and to work with somebody like Paul that is so accomplished is really a a great opportunity for me personally and professionally.
It sounds like you emphasize legacy creation as something very important as the component of what you do. Kind of going back to what you said about having done this in the past, top of your mind here, what's the most important aspect of that legacy creation? Is it the fans? Is it the event experience? Is it the things that go behind it? Is it the mission statement behind the organization? What would that look like?
Well, the answer to that multiple choice question is yes, all of it, right? But I think the secret sauce is those pieces all have to fit together in an authentic way, right? That's the difference maker. There are organizations or teams that will rebrand and they'll try to sort of reinvent themselves, or teams that will launch and really miss the cue because they're either not authentic to a market or not authentic to the sport, right? Sometimes you get so caught up with we have to create a tradition instead of letting it happen organically that you miss because of that, right? It's almost forced. It can't be forced in my experience. I go back to my experience with the Houston Texans. I was the third employee hired for the Texans, and I can vividly remember being in a conference room, not dissimilar from this, where we sat down and we were making decisions before we had a name or a coach or a team or a logo, making decisions from paperclip, what kind of paperclip are we going to use, all the way to what are the traditions that we want to have on opening day, right? And the common refrain for everything was it had to be authentically Texan. That also was probably one of the drivers that got us to the name of that franchise, right? Is that sort of that in the spirit of Texas, and to be a Texan, right, is for an outsider difficult to describe. But if you live there, you know exactly what someone means when they say they're a Texan. I think there's an opportunity for us to do that here, right? And those are the things that we'll be working on leading up to the opening of the building. Some of those things we're already doing now. We have a really, really good relationship with our supporter group, Defiance 1636. They're phenomenal, right? They are so passionate about this team already. And candidly, I don't know that we know what this team is quite yet, right? But they are fully behind this team. That supporter piece is so important, so valuable, and a part of the fabric of the sport of soccer, that we want to make sure that that becomes a key piece, a signature piece to coming to the game and experiencing it as a fan, but also playing against this team. We were at the stadium yesterday on a tour with one of the limited partners, an investor for the team, and as we're walking around that field and getting a sense of sort of the dynamic now that venue is coming together, there are a number of things that are going to be so incredibly unique and authentic to Rhode Island that we're going to do everything we can to sort of accentuate those sort of things. For example, on the river, on the water's edge, and how do we bring that into the equation? That's such a key part of the ocean state, and Rhode Island is water, right? It's ever present. And so we have the benefit of literally having that at our front door. And so we've already started to think about ways for us to make sure that that's a part of that experience that's authentic, right? That's the key, the fundamental part of it.
So you have this wellspring of sporting, marketing, ticketing, and sales experience in your CV. Is that fair to assume that that's kind of one of the major priorities of what you'll be bringing to this club? Or is there something else that you'll be demonstrating, and maybe you're already demonstrating, to build this organization that maybe people wouldn't know about?
Well, I definitely will be building on my experience and what I have done in other marketplaces for other teams, most definitely. I like to think that another aspect of my professional career is my work ethic. I think a lot of that ties back to where I was raised. If you're from Pittsburgh or you're from a place like Pawtucket, right? You know the definition of work ethic. And for me, that's a really important part of my personal and professional brand is that. I'm a very determined individual, professionally, I'm very competitive, right? I like to win from a professional standpoint. And so those are things that that I'll bring to the job. My hope is, as folks in the organization, in the office here, get to know me, and fans as I'm out meeting them, I think that they will hopefully realize how hard I work in support of the team, in support of the ownership's goals and objectives. Those sort of things are really, really important. That's really difficult to put on a resume, right? It's difficult to describe or quantify what that looks like. But that tied to my experience from a sales perspective, my experience in opening a venue or launching a team. What I like to say to folks is I feel like I can see around the corner a little bit, which is really, really important. One of the other things that I know for certain is the first time I went through an experience where you're launching a team or you're opening a building or you're rebuilding or reconfiguring a business or an organization is you oftentimes don't take a moment to sort of appreciate how special and unique that is. And so hopefully one of the other things that I will be able to do both in the organization with our staff here, our organization, but also with fans is to make sure that we do celebrate those special moments. The milestone of topping off the building with that last steel, right? That's one of many milestones that will take place. There are a lot of organizations or teams that build buildings and just don't sort of recognize each and every one of those steps. We should be celebrating all of that. This venue is going to be a quality of life enhancer for Rhode Island, and that's to be celebrated. And so that's the other thing, again, really difficult to quantify in a written document, but I hope that's something that I bring to this job.
In terms of the aspect that you had kind of hinted soccer was the missing jewel in your professional sporting crown, are you familiar with the sport? I know we'll probably talk a lot about the separation of front office, responsibilities and then the technical staff and what they need to do on the pitch. But are you already a fan of soccer, or is that something net new for you as a person?
I am most definitely a fan of soccer. I'm new to it, right? I don't know a lot of the intricacies. In fact, earlier today in the office, I was being sort of schooled on the appropriate terms to use when discussing soccer terminology, which I have a great appreciation for. I think, like many sports fans in North America, in the United States, soccer is becoming more and more prominent in this country, right? You can't turn on the television on a weekend now without seeing Premier League games, international competitions, right, that are now really starting to come to the forefront, which is thrilling. Ironically, hadn't even thought about the prospect of coming to work here, my son and I, because we had started to really enjoy the game of soccer. We did a trip to Europe in early March where we went to see Brentford FC play. Then we went to Amsterdam and we saw Ajax play. Then we went to Cologne in Germany and then returned back to London and we saw Chelsea play a home game. And so for us, that was a really important bonding experience for us. That's the thing that I love most about sports is at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what the sport is, what game or match you're going to watch. It's the creation of memories that are sort of born from that experience that are so important. The other aspect of soccer that to me is so incredibly appealing, when I'm asked of all the sporting events and that you've been to, and I've been to Stanley Cup Game 7s and Final Fours and Super Bowls, and what's your favorite sporting event? And it doesn't take me very long. My response in return to that always is, and genuinely I mean it, is thinking back to when my kids played soccer at a very young level. If I could go back to watching my kids play soccer, on a field, right? For them, it was in North Texas, in the Dallas suburbs. If I could go back to watching them play soccer, I would do that in a minute. I'd give up any one of those other events to be able to watch them play that. And the fascinating thing is that there are so many families that rally around their kids' soccer field on a Saturday morning, right? Hundreds of them, thousands of them across the country. And that connection with the sport, even if they don't go on to play at an elite level, right? That's a memory that you not only can you not forget it, you don't want to ever forget it, right? I think it's our job to make sure that then we figure out what's the best way to transfer that over to following this team. You don't have to be an avid soccer fan. We want avid soccer fans. You don't have to be an avid soccer fan. What we really want is we want people to come to this building and see this team, connect with them as their hometown team. It just happens to be soccer. And we are going to take the approach that we represent Rhode Island as the hometown team, right? And there's an obligation, responsibility to be good community citizens from that perspective. So that's really important for us. But it's that connection associated with sports that matters so much to me.
It's fascinating that the way you say it doesn't matter the type of player, the type of game, that sporting operations remains the same regardless of that experience. But this is a sport that is in Division II, in a league and an understanding where there are quote unquote major sports, and I have to be very careful about referencing anything that this is a minor league. But in terms of resources and the ability to deliver on a successful Division II product, does that change for you at this Division II level?
I think in my role and the role that the individuals that I work with here on the business side, we will have a more significant impact on the success of this team directly than if and when I worked for a pro hockey team or a pro basketball team. And at another level, epic level, when you work for an NFL team, what I do from a local revenue perspective, the local business side of that operation, is insignificant, right? So if you really think about it, it is not a major league division level, right? But the business principles, the way we approach it, the responsibility and obligation that we have for Rhode Island, right? That doesn't change, right? Our mindset is, and Paul Byrne and I have talked about this extensively, we're both approaching this because this is really special, that we are approaching this at a pro level, right? From our perspective, we don't see it any differently. The numbers, the balance sheet, the numbers are different, without a doubt. So is the market size compared to some of the other places where I've been. That just means I think we have to work harder, right? And our impact on success is relied on more than, at the Premier League level or NFL level, right, which is off the stratosphere. They're so heavily reliant on their television revenue, right, which really, in a nominal way, exists for USL championship. So we don't have that to rely on. That means our other muscles have to get stronger, right? And that's our mindset. Our mindset here is to take seriously the job we have to do in representing Rhode Island as that hometown team and making sure that we do the best job. Our mindset is to be a pros pro team right here, and we're committed to that.
Speaking of commitments, you're now the second person ever to take charge of Rhode Island FC. Through this transition, there have been people questioning the stability of this club, the direction. How do you quell those concerns, and how do you reinforce the direction and mission statement of this organization moving forward?
That's an interesting question. The way I think about this is it's not uncommon at all for something of that nature to take place in a startup, right? You see that many, many times. A lot of times in a startup situation, there are individuals that are right at the right moment, right? And then they're called upon to do other things. And so um, that I think it's not a sign of instability at all, right? I think it's a sign of leadership for ownership to say, right now we might need something different, right? Or we may need an individual who's doing job A to do something else or be focused on another project or be involved. Um, I can tell you in my many years working in pro sports that situation has happened on a relatively frequent basis, where you have someone that's in charge for a period of time and then circumstances change, or you have evolved beyond a certain point, and so you bring someone else in. I have a tremendous amount, I said earlier, I'm probably repeating myself, I have a tremendous amount of respect for the individuals that came in here, started and literally launched this. And it's almost a handing off of the baton. Right now, it's my turn to take it as far as I can. And there will be a time when I won't be doing this either, right? And you learn early in sports, especially as you start to sort of advance through organizations, you learn early in sports that you're keeping a chair warm, right? The higher in an organization you get, oftentimes, the tighter that period of time is. But I think that mindset of I'm going to do the best I can with what I have for the period that I'm doing that particular job, to make the most of it, right? That's my responsibility to the ownership, is to do just that. But I go back to, it's not uncommon. This sort of thing happens all on a regular basis, not all the time, but on a regular basis for startups. You could probably, there's case studies written about, right person at right time, being involved in an organization. And I think this is probably a pretty good example of that.
Coming into this job mid-season as you are, knowing that you have the priorities of finishing the season and then also, of course, Tidewater Stadium being finished, what would you say are the three main priorities that exist for you now? Are they a continuation of the existing priorities that were here before you, or have you seen an opportunity to change direction?
Well, the number one objective, as I see it from my perspective, is we want to raise the volume on the team. I know my coworkers, the folks that I work with here every day, they're sick and tired of hearing me say raise the volume. But that's a key and critical part of what we're trying to do. In fact, meeting with you and sitting down and having this conversation is a part of that process, right? Because we have to make sure that we are outwardly engaging the future fan base. We are educating folks about who we are and what we are. So that's the number one piece for us, is just that. We need to make sure that we are connecting with the community, right? One of the signature parts of our brand identity is anchored in community. And that means we have to be out grassroots in the community and making sure that folks know where we are when we're there, so that we have those opportunities to connect with people, and that they see us out there, right? It's a little bit like moving into a new neighborhood, right? The guy that moves into his new neighborhood closes the blind and locks the door, right? He's not having a positive impact on the rest of the neighbors. So from our perspective, we're the new neighbor, and we're going to be out at the block party, and we're going to be out with the kids playing street ball, or putting up the nets in the street and kicking around the soccer ball. Those are the things that we want to do. We want to support community organizations. We definitely want to put a spotlight on youth and amateur soccer in this area. So that community piece, anchored in community, is really, really important. And then I, along with others, will have the responsibility for identifying a naming rights partner for the stadium and founding partners, top tier partners. And so right now, ordinarily, there'd be a 30, 60, 90-day plan. Mine is like first 3 days, next 6 days, first 9 days. It's really accelerated because we're in the thick of it. but identifying potential candidates for a naming rights partner in this building, which we think is going to be an absolute showpiece, that's a really critical part of what I have to get done. And collectively, as a group, we need to make sure that we're able to demonstrate how valuable and important this building is going to be to a potential partner to be involved, what this will mean from a quality of life enhancement to not just Pawtucket, but all of Rhode Island, and also identify a partner that shares our values, right? That's the other part of it. So that's sort of that third piece for me, sort of that revenue part of this equation. We very soon will be in the market talking about premium seats, suites, and club seats, and sort of the premium offering that we have as well. That's probably a little bit later in the fall for me, but still, it's on the radar. We've got 277 days until we open this building, so we have a lot of work to do.
Would you say at this point there's a bigger emphasis on Tidewater and that Bryant's kind of automated and it's just the day-to-day game experience at this point?
It is. This season is very important from our perspective. We have developed 4 signature games during the second half of the season that we're going to put a lot of emphasis towards. The 5th of July is one of them coming up. We're going to do a fireworks show. I know in this area, the Paw Sox, that 4th of July weekend fireworks event was a huge deal for Paw Sox fans. And so what we want to try to do is see if we can't sort of continue a tradition of that nature as the hometown team here. So that 5th of July is really important for us. We also have a game against our cross-state rival on August 10th against Hartford Athletic. And we've got to fill the building, right? It's critically important that we make sure that we have as many fans as we possibly can in that building, and that we don't have very many at all fans from Hartford over here. And so we're doubling down on what we're referring to as Operation Sellout, right? It's really, really important. We have a special offering. Everybody in the office, everybody in the organization, doesn't matter what you do, your operations person or your social media person, your charge is to go out and sell tickets. And we have a special offer. We've got a contest going to make sure that everybody's selling tickets. So it's not just the ticket group, it's everybody. And then the final game of the year is our Fan Appreciation Day. I'm skipping over one, which I'll come back in just a minute. Fan Appreciation Day, that final game of the year. And we're going to do some really, really fun things with our season ticket holders and the fans that come to that game. So we've got a lot of surprises related to that. And the fourth game that I skipped over is we're going to do a kids game. So we're working with partners, corporate partners of ours, and they're going to purchase tickets, which we are then going to get out into the community for kids under 13 to come to the game. So we're talking about thousands of tickets, thousands of kids that we will bring in through the various organizations. Project Goal is one of the organizations we will work with. The Boys and Girls Clubs of Rhode Island we'll be working with as well. From my perspective, it's an opportunity for us, again, to introduce ourselves to young fans, get them excited about this team. And they may or may not ever have had an opportunity to go to pro soccer game, a pro sport event in their lives. And so for us, along with our partners, to be able to do that, to fund a game like that. And what I can tell you from past experience, when you have a building filled with kids, it's electric. And so that's the other dynamic that we're trying to create, is high energy to make that game super exciting, both for our team, right, and also the other fans as well.
As I think about everything that this club has on the horizon, looking back and kind of assessing your first few weeks here, what are some of the first few things you've already seen here in your initial assessment that you can recognize as incredible accomplishments of this office, this organization, that maybe even differentiate from other times in your professional sporting experience?
I think from a business operations standpoint, one of the most impressive things, the weekend that I arrived, I did not start until a Monday, but I came in for the Saturday game, and firsthand seeing all the work and energy that went into uh, transforming um, the stadium at Bryant University into a home field. Um, like you were immersed in the team's brand and identity. Um, the 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 from departing your car to walking in the fan zone at the very entry point, the food trucks that are authentically Rhode Island, right? That little grove area over there, seeing that firsthand has been absolutely um, overwhelming, right? And the amount of work that goes into that in advance, thinking about it, right? Coming up with that plan, putting it all the pieces together so that they fit and feel right, and then taking it back down after the game is super impressive. That doesn't happen by accident. I think it speaks volumes about the individuals that are here. One of the things that I'm proud about being included in and being a part of this is just that, right? Working side by side with people that take a tremendous amount of pride in the fact that we're building this team from scratch. And I would say that would probably be in the first 3 weeks, that would be the most impressive thing that I've experienced firsthand.
Fans are very passionate, especially around, individuals like the supporters group. There's been a concentrated effort to make sure that professional soccer succeeds here in Rhode Island. What would be some of the commitments or promises you'd like to make fans as you take the helm of this organization?
I'm not a big promise maker. So one of my promises will definitely be um, um, watch my actions, right? I'm not an individual who likes to make a lot of promises. I do commit to, right? I will commit to, we're going to work really, really hard to um, earn, uh, whether they be avid soccer fans, families, novice fans. We're going to work really hard to earn their trust and earn the following that we hope that we'll be able to garner from them. I commit that the organization will stand by, the anchored in community statement that we have. From my perspective, we're going to, as a group, work really hard to make sure that we do everything we can to support the technical side, the team side, to be championship quality and caliber, but we'll also be champions in the community and with our partners, with our supporters, and with the fans. And that goes beyond just saying it, right? That's about actions. That's about the things that we do. I'm a pretty transparent person. I like to consider myself, although it doesn't seem like with this conversation, I like to think of myself as a pretty good listener, right? And that's the other thing that we will do and we're committed to. And that is to have fan forums, to listen to fans tell us what they like and what they don't like, right? And we'll make decisions based on that. And that's not always commonplace in any business, right? In any service industry. But it's really important. When you do come across a company that is focused on, taking information from their customers and using it as a way of making the best decisions they can, those are generally the companies that have the most loyalty, right? And so that's the other thing that we're committed to as a group is just that, is to make sure that we're not doing this in a vacuum. I've already in the last 3 weeks, it pales in comparison to what our grassroots group has done. But in the 3 weeks, I don't think that there's been a night that I haven't been out at an event or an activity that they work so hard to have scheduled, and just sort of taking in the input and the comments from folks And then also just being out in the marketplace, right? And introducing myself to people and having them ask all the questions about, where and when and why. And, there are a lot of folks that still don't realize that, we're playing this year and we will be in a brand new stadium. And so from our perspective, it's important that we have that dialogue as well, and make sure that people are aware of what we're doing.
David, I can't help but notice that from the moment you officially started, our record seems to have swung to the positive now with 2 wins, our first 2 wins consecutive, our first home win under your watch, and of course, full credit to Coach Kano and the team on the performances of the day. But things seem to be turning around on the performance side of the organization. Is there some magic about you that we need to know about? How have you felt about these first 2 wins? How have you felt about the collectiveness of this team so far? What was it like watching that first game for you at home? Walk us through what that was like.
What I will tell you is, having been around a lot of organizations and a lot of teams, I'm incredibly impressed with Kano Smith, his staff, what they've done with the team. This is a really young, new team, right? And it takes a while for any organization to come together, work together, perform at a high level. And it's been fascinating to watch them. I have a lot of respect for what he's been able to do this year, and building and game to game improvement. The games are thrilling to watch, absolutely thrilling to watch, and it's been impressive to see that. I will tell you, I'm incredibly lucky, right? If anything, to sort of arrive on the scene as the team is coming together and performing. The past 2 wins, I've been fortunate and blessed to be here to be able to experience those. But it has everything to do with the hard work that's been, put in on the team side. And, to have someone that accomplished working that hard to get that team headed in the right direction, for them to believe in the direction that the team is going, has been incredible to watch as a fan, right? From a fan's perspective. And that's what I am truly at the end of the day, is I'm rooting for them just the same way as a supporter would be, or a single game ticket buyer would be. That's my point of view as well. I might not know the intricacies of it, the defense we're playing, or the offensive formations that we are running. But I'm glad we have Kano Smith and that group of coaches on the pitch, because they're doing a fantastic job. They're going to make our job easy, for sure, because it's a likable group, right? That's the other dynamic here, is we've got some guys that play on this team that are incredibly likable, and that connection with the fan base is really, really valuable. So I feel really lucky from that standpoint.
David, thank you for joining us today. It has been an enjoyable experience knowing more about who you are as a person and what you'll be contributing here at Rhode Island FC. In the meantime, you can find us at Twitter, Threads, and TikTok at RIFC Podcast, our Instagram at Raising Anchor, and we have that website, www.raisinganchorpodcast.com. Anchor's up, and thanks. We can't wait to talk to you until next time.